All right, welcome back, fail-safe investors. Today's topic is index funds. And if you haven't already watched my video on how to diversify your portfolio, where I talk about mutual funds, index funds, ETFs, and REITs, and also bonds, I'll leave the link in the description below, or I'll have it somewhere on here when I figure it out. But anyway, let's jump right into it. So if you follow any markets, if you're investing, hopefully you're following the markets. So a great way to follow the markets is through indexes. So if you haven't seen the Dow Jones index, the S&P 500 index, and the NASDAQ index, those are the three largest indexes. So pretty much what an index is a representation of the total stock market. So with the S&P 500, that's 500 of the top performing companies. So it's all in one index to give you a representation or a benchmark of how the market is performing as a whole. And the same thing goes for the Dow Jones, which is the 30 largest industrial companies. And the NASDAQ, I think, is 2,000 company corporations in one index. But most of them, from what I understand, are like tech companies and stuff like that. So pretty much you cannot invest in those indexes directly, but what you can do is invest in index funds that track those indexes. So you can invest in index funds, and I'll try to link a couple of them in there in this video, plug them, bow, bow, bow. But you can invest in index funds, and what they'll do is they'll track those indexes. So there's an index fund that tracks the S&P 500, and you can pretty much invest into that, and it'll pretty much, as the S&P 500 goes up or down, the index fund will go up or down. So there's a couple pros and a couple cons with index funds. So with index funds, you have an expense ratio, and I'm pretty sure you don't want anything over a 0.2, because since index funds are passively managed, meaning there's no one behind a computer actively picking these funds or anything, since they're passively managed, you don't want anything over a 0.2, but the 0.2 is pretty much the cost of doing business with any index fund. So let's say you got $100, 0.2 of that is like 20 cents. That's pretty much pennies almost. And then like $1,000, that's $2, $10,000, $20, and up, the more you go up, the bigger percentage you're taking out, and that's annual. So that's like once a year you pay that percentage. But one of the pros with the index fund is you have a low expense ratio compared to mutual funds. Oh, and I also want to remind you that every index fund is a mutual fund. It's the same thing. So index funds are mutual funds. They're just passively managed, and they only invest in, or they follow or track certain indexes depending on what index fund you invest in. But another pro to index funds would be pretty much you get all these big companies that you would already want to invest in, like Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, or Google, and you're getting them at fractional of prices. So you probably don't have thousands of dollars to invest in the S&P 500, but you can find an index fund for whatever price point you're trying to get into, almost. Like I found index funds that track the S&P 500 for like $14 on Fidelity, or $20, $100. The more that you put into that index fund, the better your returns are also. Another pro would be that it's an easy way to diversify your portfolio. So you can get all these companies spread out across for a small entry point or a price point. But there are a couple cons. So one of the cons is if you don't feel like individually selecting your stocks and you do invest in an index fund, the expense ratio. Some people might not want to pay that, even though it's not that much. That could be a con depending on you or your personal preference. Another con would be most index funds do not balance out the portfolio with bonds, so you're just in stocks. And also with that con, since it's just in stocks and it's following certain indexes, when the S&P 500 takes a dive, your portfolio takes a dive also. But on a whole, an index fund relatively is a safe bet if you want stocks and you want gains. You can find an index fund and invest in the S&P 500. And when the S&P 500 goes up or the stock market goes up, your money goes up with it. Hopefully I give you enough information to go out there and make some fail-safe investments. Remember, I'm Terry. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, come back for more. Let's get it, let's do it.